Oh no.
Hello.
Yo, yo, yo.
Yo. So we're starting. I'm Crystal.
Got it.
And we're part of IO Literary Journal. I can never remember what I'm going to say, so I wrote it down like a true writer. Thank you guys all for coming today. Thank you to Felicitious for hosting us. You guys are great. If you do want to drink tonight, they are 10% off for the event itself. Anything else? So for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Crystal. I'm a USF alum. My day job is an ESL instructor when I'm not editing IO. But I'm surprised I even get time to do that in between babysitting all the time. So nephews who were here before.
They were here.
Yeah, they were here, and they were a mess.
My name is Keanu, just like Keanu Reeves. I haven't been to the Matrix, but I do have some excellent adventures. I'm the creative director for IO Literary Journal. I'm really happy to be with these lovely people. I'm a USF alum as well, and I just keep on stumbling into things, and it's just been working out so far, so I'm pretty happy about that. Also, we're kind of a bunch of introverts up here, so please be nice to us, you know, but it's kind of seeming like it's going to be a private event, so that's good too.
Yeah. So for any of you unfamiliar with IO, it was a literary journal founded by myself and two other amazing women, Isabel and Laura, who could not be here today, unfortunately. Usually we get questions about our name, so I'm going to start with that. Does anybody know who Io is in Greek mythology? Okay. Io was the mortal lover of Zeus, who Zeus turned into a heifer to hide his affair from his wife Hera. At least that's one of the versions of the tale. Another version is that she kind of scorned his affections and therefore he turned her himself in anger. Another version attests that Hera discovered her husband's infidelity and turned Io into a cow herself because she was mad. Either way, Io's bodily and spatial banishment speaks to our journal's focus on the theme of marginalization and those considered other who inhabit the socio-political outskirts. While Io is barely 2 years old, Isabel, Laura, and I really hope that we can continue to showcase underrepresented voices and unique perspectives for many years. So with that, why are we throwing this event?
Right, that's kind of why we're throwing this event, is to, Tampa Bay has a good literary community, and we just wanted to add to that fire and kind of started playing our part to it. So in addition to joining other literary events, we wanted to give back as well for that, and also introduce ourselves. So that's what we got for you.
Yes.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. So we'll start with our first reader, which is Macy. Macy Sidlowski is a third-year MFA student at the University of South Florida, concentrating in creative nonfiction. When she's not writing, you can find her teaching English composition classes at USF, reading, playing with her cat, or watching endless videos of otters on YouTube. In terms of Greek myth, Macy would be a siren, mainly because she'd be able to swim with otters whenever she'd want, but also because she'd actually be able to sing then. So let's give it a round of applause for our first reader.
All right, thank you guys so much for letting me come in here and read to you. I'm gonna read a short micro essay kind of vibe. It's still a work in progress, so bear with me a little bit. It's called MRI, and any context that you need to know beforehand is the fact that my mom had a brain tumor when she was 26, and it left her completely blind, but also with short-term and long-term memory loss. So in this kind of piece, we are getting an MRI, and I am acting as power of attorney, except she can't vouch for herself. There we go. Okay. We start when Mama removes her diamond earrings one by one. I place them in the front pocket of my jeans, promising to return them as soon as she's out of the scanner. They were gifts from her recently deceased uncle, and she has a fear of losing them. The technician mistakes Mom's fear of loss for fear of the machines and asks Mama if she's scared of enclosed spaces. Mama shrugs. I can't see it anyway, she says. A hint of a smile graces her lips. The technician glances at me as if to gauge whether or not she should laugh. I give her a slight nod. She gives Mama a slight chuckle. It is an exchange that we're used to. No one knows how to talk to a blind woman, not even doctors. And even though Mama is not afraid of the scanner, they give her headphones and ask her what music she likes to listen to. Country is always her response, Alabama in particular. The technician then guides Mama back to the table and slides it into the scanner, its hinges creaking with sudden weight and movement. They never remember to offer her a blanket or cushions. A scan every year, a different technician every time, sometimes at different hospitals, and they always seem to forget. Stay still, the technician reminds Mama, and the two of us slip out of the room, shutting the door behind us. I am forced to stand while the technician sits by the controls. She flicks a switch and the humming begins. I peep inside the room and see Mama's feet at the end of the table, her gray and white socks dirty at the bottom right by the heels. Her body is made of water molecules. All of ours are. Inside them, the hydrogen and oxygen atoms have protons, and those protons are drawn by the magnets in the scanner. At rest, Mama's molecules are randomly arranged. But as the MRI begins, her protons are pulled, aligning themselves in steady lines. They slide by one another and fall into place, slipping into a routine they know well, north to south, head to toes. The protons arrange themselves in groups and then into columns. They know where they belong, like children lining up for recess in alphabetical order. The technician flips a switch and a second magnetic field is turned on, then off, then on, then off again. These quick pulses send the protons into panic. They shake by one another and begin to lose order. The magnetic field creates chaos in Mama's body, and even though she cannot feel it, I imagine it happening, her atoms buzzing in her brain, trying to find some comfort and solace between the quick impulses of electricity the technician teases them with. I can hear the scanner echoing even outside of the room. Its gradient coils vibrate with electricity of the magnetic fields, and I finger one of the earrings in my pocket as the scanner knocks, as if to say, I am done, open the door. Images flood the screen in front of the technician. Mama's brain appears gray in color but not grainy. The cross-sectional images show a midline shift from where her tumor pushed the longitudinal fissure to the right 3 centimeters. The gri and sulci, those folds and bumps of her brain, are flattened in her frontal lobe from 3 surgeries. Some doctors claim chemotherapy also played a part in this. The technician squints at the images carefully. She is looking for disturbances, any errors of consistency, but she is new. She has never met Mama. All she knows is Mama took a seizure last week, and EMTs suggested getting an MRI to ensure Mama didn't suffer any other severe damage. The technician leans closer to the screen. She pulls her lip between her teeth and nods at it, and after a moment, I lean over and trace the fissured and flattened area with my finger. This is where the tumor was, I say. Glioblastoma, multiform 4. She doesn't pull her eyes from the screen. There's so much damage, she says. It's so difficult to read. I crouch next to her and point at the fissure again, trailing my fingers down the brainstem and onto another screen. I explain the tumor, the surgeries, the crushed optic nerves. Mama lays in the scanner, waiting. Her atoms return to normal. Thank you.
Cool. So, next up we have Jay. Jay is a Guyanese West Indian. She currently works for the Bank in Tampa, Florida, while she's secretly planning her escape back to New York. Writing is difficult for her until she forgets it is. She would be Orpheus because she resonates the most with his story. So let's welcome up Jay. Yeah.
Hey guys.
You can take it out if you want.
Oh, that's fine. I would get nervous. So I wrote a poem. It is in response to my mom losing her battle with lung cancer finally this year. And my aunt actually as well, who lost her battle with leukemia this year as well. We had her funeral this past week. So this is in commemoration of both of them, though I wrote this mainly for my mom. So the title is The Eulogy I Never Gave at My Mother's Funeral. In the end, my mother knew the weight of flowers, how softness keeps you buoyant. My mother's mother taught me that flowers carry secrets, and so she taught me the meaning of flowers. I learned to have faith in the flowers placed at the feet of gold gods. I learned how secrets we put in them held our souls. This is how I learned in worship we use the souls of those who came before us as harbingers to our messages. This is how I learned to see God in my own soul. In Hindu tradition, flowers are placed inside the casket prior to cremation, the body decked with buds as if with fine jewelry. And my mother was laid in a bowery, yellow wedding sari against pink and white and yellow confection, like candy I ate with my eyes. I learned that death is only a doorway. As a child, I was told stories of the spirits who visited even after passing. Welcome, despite being gone, present. Separated by a veil we could reach across. My mother's sisters laid hands to her face, her arms, her body. Small gold pieces laid in hollows in her eyelids, now in act to purify her soul, her senses to move onward, like Egyptians towards an afterlife, maybe. Some small piece of our souls went with her. The flowers that burned in her casket were sunbursts against her bones. We were carried in secret with her, prayers standing sentinel. If we are energy, some part of us became cosmic dust as she rose to ash. She was in my hair and in my clothes. She seeped into my pores. My aunts rushed me home to wash themselves and to wash me of her. Part of the tradition is to be clean following cremation, to take off the dead, but I refused. I kept her on me. I hid myself away with lies to friendly faces. I kept my mother's body close. I would have to let her go with water, but not now. That would come later, just a little more time. I saw a gold god, and she carried us, and we carried her. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Oh.
Of course, I knew it. Thank you so much, Jay. That was beautiful. So our third reader is Courtney Kloop. Courtney lives in Tampa, Florida. She is a third-year MFA student at the University of South Florida, studying flash fiction. Her works have appeared in Z Publishing, Tooth and Nail, IO Literary Journal, and elsewhere. If she could be a character from Greek mythology, she'd be Calliope, the muse of epic poetry and the wisest of the muses. She would want to be her because it'd be cool if her job was solely to provide inspiration for epic poetry. She definitely does not want to be Ataphagia, goddess of gluttony, who she's going to read about tonight in one of her pieces. So let's welcome Courtney.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Before I start, I just wanted to say thank you to Crystal and Keanu for putting this together and for doing wonderful work with IO. And thanks for having me here tonight. I'm going to read two flash fiction pieces. The first one was written in response to a prompt where you had to write about a character from Greek mythology in the modern world. So here's that one. Goddess of Gluttony. Adaphasia's latest Instagram post scaled to over 100,000 likes, making it her most liked by a margin of 3,000. The sultry picture showed Adaphasia rising from the steps of her pool, wearing a one-piece, the water droplets slipping down her spray-tanned body, the sun inviting the freckles on her shoulders to come out to play, the lotus flower tattoo at the base of her neck shone just at the right angle, her manicured fingers running through her black hair thick from chlorine. She felt the adoration leak out of her phone and into her chest with every heart-filled comment. 5,000. That was a new record as well. When Adaphasia first posted it, she set the phone face down, shielding herself from the notifications. She wanted the surprise, wanted to revel in the delicious moment when she returned to her phone and saw her screen bursting with notifications that proved people thought about her when she wasn't looking. After a minute, she couldn't help herself. She flicked her phone and watched the screen flicker with notices from Instagram. Darren Smith liked your post. Foodies of Instagram liked your post. Susan Santorino commented on your post. Hot. Oh, how she loved that pink and purple square logo, the promise it sparked when it flashed on her screen with each banner. She imagined hundreds, thousands of people waiting for Adaphasia's next great picture, their thumbs hovering above their screens, constantly refreshing the newsfeed. When they double-tapped the photo and a heart appeared, she imagined they were touching her heart, making it beat like it had flatlined and needed compressions. Now she needed new content, something juicy she could post to keep her fans satiated. An engagement photo? But her boyfriend wasn't going to propose, she knew that. A picture of her in a pumpkin patch throwing dead leaves into the air laughing, but it wasn't fall. She uploaded a hashtag no makeup selfie. People love to see the famous raw and fresh. Technically, she wasn't wearing makeup in the photo, but she used Facetune to erase the zit bubbling beneath the skin on her chin. While she was there, she wiped the bags from her eyes. She knew the post wasn't going to perform well when she watched the notifications trickle in rather than pour in, beat slow like a dying heart. Then she saw this. Ryan Chambers 69 commented on your post. Ha ha ha, I see that pimple. Facetune failed. She felt like she'd had the wind knocked out of her, like Ryan Chambers 69 reached through her phone with his hairy knuckles and ripped the breath from her lungs. She deleted the post before anyone else could comment. It only had about 30,000 likes. Usually by that time she had at least 55,000. She disappointed her followers. 2 hours later, she got a puppy, a 2-month-old Siberian Husky from a breeder she found on Craigslist. She had her boyfriend take candid shots of them playing in the park and chose the one where their matching blue eyes caught the camera at the same time. 102,000 likes, 5,100 comments, a new record. Alright, and then this is my second piece. It's called Chainmail Tube Top. The chainmail tube top trend trickled its way to the internet until eventually all of my social media feeds were crowded with pictures, gifs, and memes of girls wearing the top. When I went to my friend Kathy's house for Wednesday wine night, I staggered back on her front porch when she opened the door and greeted me wearing a bodice of chainmail. Not you too, I said. Bailey, isn't it cute? I feel like my own knight in shining armor. She twirled in place and positioned her hands on her hips, gallant and strong. She was about to ride off into battle to save a gentleman in distress. Within the hour, the rest of the wine night girls showed up, every other of them wearing one of the tube tops. We all gathered around the kitchen, sipping rosé and chattering, but it was hard to hear over the clacking sound of chainmail slapping into other chainmail as they embraced for hugs. Kathy has a beautiful accent wall in her dining room where there's a collage of faux flowers plastered from top to bottom. She calls it her Instagram wall. At the end of the night, giggling and tipsy, all the girls wearing the tube top posed for a photo in front of the Insta wall. Kathy posted the picture on Instagram, captioning it, "When you all show up to the party wearing the same outfit. #twins." The post quickly blew up, the comment section flooding with compliments. 3 of the comments asked her where they could purchase their own chainmail tube top. One of the comments was from a man. A week later, I was at the mall on my way to start my shift at the food court at Starbucks when I came across a chainmail display in the window of Forever 21. They had faceless mannequins dressed in chainmail miniskirts, chainmail tops, chainmail chokers, each holding a chainmail clutch. It seemed like any woman could be well equipped for war. There was something about the defiant way the mannequins stood, like they were guarding the store from douchebags or credit card debt, that made me want to try on a chainmail tube top. Maybe I wanted to feel defiant as well, or maybe I was just early for my shift and looking for time to kill. Before I reached the fitting room, I grabbed 2 other random pieces of clothing to sandwich the tube top between. I didn't want the fitting room attendant to judge me for also getting into the craze. The top fit my body well, accentuating the curve of my torso that led to my hips, flattening my belly like a corset. But it was so damn itchy and uncomfortable. The material left chain impressions into my skin, and red blotches started to form on my stomach and back from where the material rubbed. How did anyone wear this? Was everyone sacrificing comfort for this trend? I didn't remember anyone complaining about it. Were they too proud to admit that it sucked to wear? I left the top in the dressing room and headed to work. Another week later, I got an email from Forever 21 alerting me that chainmail tops were 50% off. My thumb hovered above the add to cart icon, but I remembered the irritation. The scratchiness felt distant and muted with time. I clicked checkout. 5 days later, the top arrived. I wore it to the next Wednesday wine night Kathy hosted, excited to see who else I would match with. Anxious to snap my own #twinning photo in front of Kathy's floral Instagram wall. I had been brainstorming witty captions all day. But no one else wore a chainmail top that night. What the hell, I whispered to Kathy when I entered her house and saw everyone there wearing dresses and flowy tops. I slipped my arm around my waist, doing my best to cover up the tube top. I was alone and exposed when I thought the chainmail tube top was supposed to protect me. She lifted up the blouse she was wearing. Her stomach was covered with red spots, so many it was like you could play connect the dots on her skin. This happened to everyone. That night, I left the party with an itch in my side, ready to go home and shed my armor. Thank you.
Okie dokie, so I realized I don't have my glasses, so this is going to take just a moment for me to like adjust my eyes and all. So, next up we have Jim Peterson. He is a poet, essayist, and short story writer, currently writing his first novel about a sabotage attempt of the fledgling U.S. rocket program at Cape Canaveral in 1951. A former U.S. Army officer, business executive, and high school English instructor, Jim endeavors to resource his diverse background to creatively present writers with poignant, relatable experiences about the human condition. His principal interest is exploring how humans interact with the natural environment and their perception of that environment. Jim's work has appeared in various publications including Lamar Magazine, Revelry, Florida Writers Magazine, and the Shadow Bear Family Circus. Jim says if he could be one character from Greek mythology, it would be Mercury, the messenger of the gods, because that way he would be in on the best gossip. Cool. Let's welcome Jim.
Number one, thank you for IO for hosting this. And thanks to the participants. I'm not going to use the mic, I think you can probably hear me. And thank you for supporting the written word. I am a former high school English teacher, holy manoli. You wouldn't believe the grammar nowadays. So I'm kind of, I guess, proud to be the oldest guy in the room. By far, thank you very much. I know I don't look it, but I am 63. And when I was in my 20s, I didn't have that many boxes. And as life progressed, you end up having more boxes. So here's my philosophy on boxes. It is, you have stuff in your house, and it fills up various rooms, and then you put it in boxes, and then you move the boxes from room to room, and then eventually you put them in the garage. And then every once in a while you take the opportunity, it's a perennial event, it's kind of like a rite of passage, you go out and clean out the garage. So just a couple months ago I was cleaning out the garage and came up with this relatively short poem about that experience. Resolution. I found my life in boxes, unexpected, in a corner of the garage, and somewhat organized, marked with a magic marker to note the magic inside. Each cardboard safe protecting contents that at the time were important enough to put in a box. Other days and years of time is in closets, cabinets, and drawers. But I pledged clean out as a New Year's resolution, and somewhat organized in the corner of the garage, unexpected, I found my life in boxes.
Thank you, Jim. Our next reader is Andrew Miles. He hails from Northwest Indiana. He received a BA in English from Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. While there, he served as a prose editor for The Broken Plate. At present, he writes nonfiction and poetry while pursuing an MFA at the University of South Florida. Drew loves classic cinema and deep dish pizza. During the summer of 2018, he did an 11,000-mile cross-country road trip with friends. If he could be any figure from Greek mythology, he would like to be Chiron because he was wise, just, more even-tempered, and kind. He was known to help others and to be a great teacher. So let's welcome Andrew.
I'm going to take this off because I'm a little tall. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm known to write a little bit longer pieces, so we're going to try to condense this a little bit. This one's only about like 1,100 words, but it's still sort of longish and more than I want to read. So you may hear, this one has footnotes. You may hear like the numbers skip around, so don't be confused if I skip a number or two. I'm just going to skip some of the content. All right. Dear Dom, I've been writing a lot about fraternity days and our friendship. After months and months of writing, I am starting to produce work I feel is finished, or moving in that direction. But it's taken a lot of processing, and that may be because my feelings about what we had still linger. Footnote 1. I can no longer remember how your voice sounded when you spoke. I only remember your laugh. I got into a bad funk during the first semester of grad school, what with moving 1,000 miles away and going through a hurricane. So I went to a shrink at the university, and after several sessions, he helped me accept and come to terms with my homosexuality. Something I feverishly denied all my life prior. I still have trouble with it, but I have support in my life. I'm sorry for any pain this caused you, though I want to believe I suppressed it enough to not hurt you, or I at least tried my best. Footnote 3. I'm sorry we ever fought. I have enough self-respect now to say that most of the time, it was just because you would drop me out of nowhere. I can only guess as to why that happened. I suppose it's because I didn't need you enough. I know you are straight, and I'm not suggesting we renew our friendship. Still, I told myself I'd let things be, and that was best, but I was wrong. Footnote 4. I wasn't wrong. I needed closure. It wouldn't come from you. It had to come from me writing this letter. So I wrote you this message because I wanted you to know about what I wrote below. My psychiatrist and I started our talks about other things, but when I mentioned you, he wanted me to discuss our friendship, and after I did over a number of meetings, he helped me face that I had fallen deeply in love with you back then. Footnote 5. This is a glossed over version. By the end, we only got as far as talking about me being pansexual. I knew that wasn't right. For whatever reason, the psychiatrist was sort of pushing after 3 sessions for us to wrap up, so I didn't schedule another appointment. The next and last time I saw him, he was blacked out drunk, dancing by himself on the dance floor at a bar in Soho. I was simultaneously trying very hard to deny my sexuality and to keep our friendship because I believed that it was impossible to have both. Footnote 6. I'm tempted to blame being closeted, tempted to blame hiding for the reason I lost you, and while I know that's not true, I know it's all somehow related. I also thought if I came out, my life would change immensely, and though it later did, I was not ready for that kind of change back then. I'm okay with who I am now, or growing closer to it. I removed you from my social media and deleted our messages and your number from my phone long ago because I thought it would help me move on or force me to. As evident by this message, pieces still remain, and a part of me is still with you, or maybe the idea of you, and I think that's due a lot to the way things ended. How, even as a friend, I just couldn't hold your attention. I couldn't get you to want to see me. I couldn't interest you with who I was. Perhaps you thought I was gay and wanted to distance yourself from me. I had sensed that Bryce, footnote 7, another fraternity brother, part of our close friend group of 5, also shared my dilemma, though in a very different way. Even then, I suspected he hated me, and not just because of Butch education. Footnote 8, I was chosen for the position instead of Bryce by our fraternity's cabinet. Dom was on the cabinet, so Bryce assumed he would easily get that position. But because he loved you, or at least liked you a lot, I never wanted to stand in the way of that if you both wanted to be together. I remember giving you advice, but also testing you when you mentioned Bryce might be gay. I recommended that you make clear to him that you didn't like him that way, but you didn't want to because you didn't want to lose him.
Kate recently obtained her MFA in Creative Writing, Poetry, from Arcadia University. She currently lives in Northport, Florida with her partner, who is a doctor of horticulture, and their 3-year-old son and 2 unreasonably loyal dogs. She says that since we can rarely choose how we are labeled, if she had to choose a Greek mythological character, she would be Echo, because she has been the hated other woman, and because she often feels like writing is a Sisyphean feat, wherein we are cursed to echo the lessons and warnings and predictions preceding our own voices that we are forever forgetting and relearning. We're always caught in a donut of repetition, but at least with writing, we are always trying to refresh the cliches and improve and heighten the experience of learning and forgetting. Let's welcome Kate.
So I will start off with auteur theory, or why I want to see the Miyazaki reimagining of Birth of the Nation. Millennials raised on the cinema, milking the eye of the camera lens, the screen, like mama's unavailable teat, our nannies, screens, and fathers, directors, producers, where ministering angels are scriptwriters and musical scores. Everything we know mitigated by the pale-faced male gaze. It might as well be all fake news, since we never tread past the thresholds of living rooms, kitchens, bathrooms, wherever our screens locate us. We have container baby syndrome, latched on the boob tube, drinking the psychedelic Kool-Aid and getting bottle rot of the mouth, bottle brain. Big Pharma brother is lecturing us about the side effects in positive reinforcement voice. Hayao, bring me back to feudal Japan, to Bushido. If not all lives matter, if the line is so thin and blue, let me die under one of your Ronin swords in a samurai fight scene, reminiscent of D.W. Griffith's white knights charging forth to save the town from blackness, miscegenation. Give me a version of misogyny I can stomach, where for a woman to be powerful, she needs to become a wolf god, make friends with the semi-evil spirit babies of trees, die unheroically in the end to make the grasses grow in spite of humans ruining everything anyway. Test me in your animated ghost world in ways that would make Disney and his princesses blush. Give me some commandments against my fellow man, woman, and child that leave the door open for nature to revive and exact bounty hunts on the human race like a pestilence that has gotten terribly out of hand. Give me some of your anti-Gaijin propaganda, cinema god, that sets me up to lose everything, so that your vision of the balance between flesh and spirit has a chance. It's screen time in the megaplex of Earth. And then I will read. This is actually my first poem that was published off of Literary Orphans. So, and it is called English Campaign for the Sciences. Kate, the English major, will go far, fast, further. She will become the first ever human spontaneous combustionist to freeze over, go dark. She will be Miss American Eyebrow Picker of the Century. With her prize money, she will buy 10 greenhouses in which to grow carcinogenic, latex-producing dog bangs, harvesting the sap for nefarious purposes. She will use her political influence as a reproductively viable vesicle to get her first ever Venus flytrap into office. Will tour the country giving screenings of The Secret Life of Plants for the campaign. She will give readings at universities of her poems written in ethnobotanies. When the students hear the words spoken, orchids will sprout through their eyes. Stagcorn ferns will be vomited out through their noses and throats. Bryopsida funaria shall bloom across skin like tattoos, and the anus and genitalia will erupt with male and female apple saplings. In future, all written language will be replaced with the written chemical line structure bond formulas of oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, magnesium, sodium, potassium, calcium, chlorine, and phosphorus. Separate dialects might choose to incorporate lesser elements into their lexicon. This is how new political factions will begin. Kate's final poem will be printed on a biodegradable campaign button, coming back as a flower. If you want to hear the third one, I can, or I can bow out and let somebody else start.
What do you guys think?
Do the third one.
Yeah,
4 more
one
years.
Okay.
4 more years.
And this was posted on voting demographics in 2020 AD. This comes off of Poets Reading the News, and if you haven't checked them out, do it. It's a great incentive to keep up with current events and then write about it. Make America Great Again. Donald Trump campaigning like Julius Caesar to make the Roman Empire great again. Eagle banner waving overhead, a talisman of extinction. Buy my real red bill cap and I will crown you with the bays, my dear voters. Democracy, putting a new roof on a crumbling foundation. Jared Diamond would have choice words for you, POTUS, about flirting with falling. But words are just that. No one trusts their sources anymore because all the writing on the walls is fake and filled with lead, like the water in Flint, Michigan. Like the thickened blood of its children, retarding growth and scrambling the cerebral cortex and hippocampus. Debase the currency until it dawns on all that gold is not what we should have been hoarding for when the stock market crashes, when the government collapses from within, but rather seeds and mason jars full of pickles. Forget non-GMO verified USDA organic white privilege. Should we have been digging holes in the desert like Stanley Yelnats to hide out in with caches of sploosh and tequila waiting for Jesus to return from the east? There are curses older than man that we have been tasked to break, but we have lost our language, our deep grammar and mother tongue with which to speak the right invocation. Some words are not translatable from one language to the next. And if they were, they would only alter the consciousness of the learner, causing a psychotic break. And where would we be? In a field of black telephones ringing, with Emily Pettit, Sartre, and Wittgenstein assessing the problem? We were all indigenous once. Once we were all Pocahontas or Geronimo, colonized and penetrated and left with our language amputated, removed like an organ harvested from our bodies and sold on the black market, the dark web. Now we are sitting on our brittle bridges in middle America in the middle of our eroding Highway 66 with a Ouija board, trying to contact the spirit world because we don't remember how to pronounce God's true name. We are asking if we are not alone, if someone is with us, inviting the demonic. We are asking to become possessed.
So before I drop this again, just gonna take it out. There you go. So our second to last reader is V. Navarro. She is a poet and graduate of the MFA program at USF, where she is now a doctoral student in communication with a focus in disability studies. Lately, she's been feeling angry, stubborn, and resistant whenever she sees people being disrespected or dismissed. So she'd probably be Antigone, unrelenting about honoring someone she loves. Let's welcome V. Navarro.
So I have a question for you, Crystal.
Yes.
Is this video going to go online?
Possibly.
Ooh, I better change a line because this is about someone.
You can use a pseudonym.
All right, give me a band name. Have this be interactive. Someone give me like a band name.
A good band name.
Like an actual
One
band.
Direction.
Arcade
No.
Fire.
I was thinking Arcade Fire actually. We'll do Arcade Fire. All right, so I have been not feeling great for the last month, to be honest with you. So when I'm feeling depressed, my poetry, like the tone of my poetry, shifts a lot. So these first two poems, are not like my normal tone. They're a little bit cold, but I still wanted to share them with you because I think that it's worth asking you to like witness kind of the artifacts of this time period. So I'm going to share them with you. I knew this poem was about isolation, but I didn't want to call it that because that seemed too much of an abstraction. So I did the most pretentious thing possible. I looked up the French word for isolation, and it sounded cool, so we're going to go with it. All right. Isolement. The sky is full of birds, banal and miraculous. Even to think of you listening to Arcade Fire, alone in your room, is to summon a queer god, sympathetic and powerless to help. This is not their domain. I can't get up, feed myself, bathe, so the noon comes and hooks gold earrings for me. Its movements so gentle, then gone. I sit down to make a map for a class assignment, but I can't manage to remember where the coast goes amputating the sea. So instead I labor over the middle, the china plate prairie, the desert folded with cornflower sands. Even to interrupt the work, to throw some utterance to myself at the wall, is a kind of hope, one that naively sings the anthem of my language's homeland of oblivion. This one is tentatively called Make It to the Moon. Why have I been taught so many new names for want? So many new ways to imagine a house on fire, how it burns back sheetrock to Holy Ghost flesh, rescripts every page of every book with the wet handwriting of God. This has to be enough, to give my body over to be filled with the same quiet that floods the desert when the rainstorm pivots at the sight of its thirst. You are in the dark, in the tree, singing, but I look again, and it's a bundle-winged eagle. I listen again, and it's a telephone pole humming, revealing its secret life with a thinking heart housed in its transformer. Besides, remember, if you stretched all the blood vessels from 2 human bodies end to end, you could almost make it to the moon. All right, so this is probably my most favorite poem I've ever written. I'm really proud of it currently, so far. And it got published last month. by, I don't know how to pronounce his name, I really should, Johannes Göransson, who's one of my all-time favorite poets, and he was a guest editor at Burning House Press, and I was like, please read my poems! So he took 2 of them. And this is one of them. It's about King David and his son Absalom, who rebelled against him, and it's just following that story. It's called Absalom. My heart cut from me, cut apart and tossed into your cradle. I must have raised you too eager for the hiss of rain splitting a battlefield like glass, too eager for the sight of Michael's winged men, a clot of sword-handed clouds spinning in the sky. In this beautiful room where I and not your mother alone birthed you, it's gone black as the backs of Adam's eyes. Now you hang by your long hair gathered under a sundered helmet, dripping rivers of red sweat. You are too old for this, and yet too young. I watch horses walk along the windows. I watch the headless woman carry urns of water. I watch the gold throne melt like slime. I watch my skin leave me like a wife. I watch the sky turned into blemished sheepskin. I watch you crawl toward me again.
Cool. Thanks, V. So, our last reader for the night, but definitely not the least, is going to be Nick. He is a dog dad, partner, educator, activist, environmentalist, writer, wine connoisseur, coffee addict, pumpkin pie enthusiast, plant collector, and USF graduate. Dude, goals, man. Seriously. His creative work has appeared in Io Literary Journal and The Advocate. If he was a character in Greek mythology, he'd be Cronus, because if he had kids, he'd eat them too. Come on up.
Thank you. So I didn't know that there would be kids here, so I might have to revise my response. Okay, so I wrote this one like 2 days before Hurricane Dorian was supposed to make landfall in Florida. So it's kind of about that. The title of it is Spaghetti with an exclamation mark. I remember reading as a child that you can determine a pasta's readiness to eat by how well the hot noodles stick to a wall. Simply toss your cooked pasta at a wall, any wall, and if they stick, they're good enough to eat. A quick search online today and I find that even Rachel Ray recommends slamming your steaming spaghetti noodles against the wall. Go figure. Growing up, I doubt I would have known at which wall to aim my scalding hot pasta. The kitchen in my childhood home was tight, even claustrophobic most of the time. Was there actually a free wall to stick my pasta to? Would the noodles cling to the ceiling if they could adhere to a wall? If I took careful aim at that one tiny area of blank space on the other side of the counter, that little place between the cluttered computer desk and the scribbled over mom calendar, would my doughy strings hang there like an unframed still life? Do ramen noodles stick the same way Rachel's do? I eat much less pasta now, but I'm more familiar with spaghetti than ever. I hear about it on the radio, I see it on the news, I check for it on my phone. Dorian's in a humid kitchen somewhere boiling spaghetti as I write this, and I wonder where he'll toss his. Before he started heating up the kitchen, Michael made a batch. His was particularly messy. I'll never forget his meal and the blistered paint it left on the wall. Before Chef Mike tossed his noodles, Harvey, Irma, and Maria hurled theirs across the room, smacking down just about everything in sight. Katrina, Sandy, Ivan, Charlie, and others made a mess of the kitchen when each had their turn to toss some spaghetti. Some parts still are not the same. I remember the time when someone's spaghetti was headed our way, and my mom sat down with my brother and me, in the tiny kitchen no less. She said if the mess came straight at us, we'd have to pack up and run to Alabama with my Nana, but she and my dad couldn't come with us because of work. We cried and pleaded with her. I don't even remember the name of who threw those particular noodles, but I remember how hopeless that moment felt, knowing we had to run away from those lines snaking across a map. I even remember way back when Miss Opal visited in '95 and splattered our walls pretty bad. Spaghetti's been my whole life, I guess. Several thousand meals later, and I'm old enough to know I'm not invincible. I've witnessed and felt enough to know how fragile all this really is, how precarious this entire existence balances on a crumbling ledge. I've seen someone younger and smarter than me lying in a coffin, nose blue and reeking of formaldehyde. It's a memory I return to more often than I'd prefer. Last year I went home to find the place wiped clean off the map by the strongest storm to ever strike the region. I have never in my life seen anything remotely close to that, and I hope to never again experience destruction on that unreal of a level. Seeing the aftermath there taught me to constantly gauge the stunning fragility of everything else. And yet, right now, not even 1 year later, we're staring down the barrel of another tropical gun. How many unprecedented storm systems can we stomach? Sure, the water is rising, but will the wind scrub us off the peninsula before the sea does? Where will 21 million people go when the sunshine can no longer sustain us? How many more spaghetti models of category 4s and 5s, crude lines scrawled across hometowns and livelihoods, can we watch before we realize en masse that this swamp could never support the lifestyles we have so violently demanded from it? We are not invulnerable, I am not immortal, places are not eternal, and there are too many cooks in this sweltering kitchen. Someone open a window, please. There are too many cooks spewing too much pasta as too much hot water rises all around us. So much spaghetti raking through this kitchen, tentacles clawing their paths across peninsulas and oceans. The worst part is knowing we've burned ourselves. We've blown holes straight through these walls, and we won't stop until the whole house floods past the roof. For so long we insisted on the gas stovetops without heeding their open flames. Some say that the house might go before us. What will it feel like to outlive a homeland? And so as I sit here along that thin slice of drywall opposite Dorian's pitching arm, I have to wonder, where will his spaghetti stick? How much more is coming? And when's our last meal in this house? Thank you.
So the beautiful thing about writing and the spoken word is that it can encourage others to share their stories even when they weren't intending to do so. So while we were going to finish up, we actually have somebody who's been listening the whole time and was inspired to read hers for the first time. So if we can welcome Rebecca, this is her first time reading. So.
Hi, y'all. Hey.
Hello, how's it going?
Go good. Get that back up there. Step over that too. So, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous. This is actually my first time speaking on a microphone and actually saying anything related to my poetry out loud. Do want to give you guys a little bit of a forefront. Suffered from a chronic illness called narcolepsy for most of my life. Started in 2nd grade and went undiagnosed until I was about 19, and left me very sleepy, if you guys know what it is. Mm-hmm. I actually came here today to give some contraband, as I like to call it, but awareness stuff that's actually on the front counter, and I didn't know it was poetry night. Mm-hmm. But recently, after being diagnosed, I think it helped me find my voice, and it's inspired a lot of my poetry. And so this is actually something that I wrote this month, totally not intending to share, but I'm gonna do it.
Yay!
Literally feel my heart like jumping right now. Okay, let's see if I could read. There lived a royal soul who beat the drum of life. In the midst of the dull roar, we felt his heart thump to life. The delicacy of his destiny grew all around him. It was surrounding him, enclosing his royal soul in the cellular webs of life. Fibrous feelings were fabricated, out of nothing and yet everything. They were tangled. He saw his new self and questioned whether it was truly a reflection of his soul. There lived a royal soul, and there was infinite beauty in his becoming of merely a mortal soul. Now, if I owed you the world, would you take my hopes and dreams as a settled debt? Would my humanity suffice in place of the infinite alternative? There are two sides of a cosmic coin. I am a limited infinity, simply time and space neatly packaged as intimate memories bound deeply within, the deepest parts of synaptic maze of my mind. You and I are a universe unlimited and endless in our expansion. I believe that the knowledge of our own limitations demonstrates the proof of how limitless we truly are. Strange human internal impulses ignite inside of me. My selective attention screams out to pay attention to nothing and yet everything. Destructive decisions demand to decide my destiny. Chronically creating creative chronic pain, illness, and problems just to suffer from. When will I decide to create my own chronic happiness? I guess, perhaps, right now and right here.
Another one?
I'll do one more. My knees are shaking, but I'm going for it. So funny how we feel so shy. Gotta flip to it. If I can find it. All the way here. This one? Didn't have a title before, but I'm gonna actually name it Google. I ran through the tips of my fingers, translating confused thoughts into even more confused words through the muscle memory of my thumbs. He asks to extract my ideas and the intricacies of my mind, similarly to the endless barrage of identically worded questions that I type into Google. He expects me to know the answer, to catalog my thoughts by page and relevancy. I don't know. But God, have I tried. I regurgitate the intricacies of my mind with childlike obedience and the overwhelming desire to feel known. He tells me it was the wrong answer. He tells me to try another. And no search found. Thank you, guys.
No worries.
A fear conquered.
Yes, good job.
And another thing checked off my bucket list.
There you go. High five.
Thank you.
All right. So that's it for us. Just gonna hold it. Then give him troubles all night, right? Thank you all for coming out. Hey, I broke it. Well, we don't even need it, really.
You can fix it.
You can be the fixed dude. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. Thank you. We really appreciate it. It was a great night to hear all of your stories. Do you want to say anything?
Thanks again for Felicitious hosting this. Thanks for making this a cool place for us to come and hang out and always supporting the literary scene. Thank you guys again for coming out and being yourselves.
Yeah. And a last little shout out to IO. We have our second print volume coming out, and if I could have imagined a few years ago kind of doing this with people I love, didn't think it was possible, right? So our second volume's coming out next month, so if you're interested, hit me up. Thank you guys.